I'm a survivor. I will never allow anyone to ruin me again. This is my story, and I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. The good, the bad, the ugly. Good morning, True Story. I'm writing out this email early in the morning after listening to a number of your videos on YouTube. It has been very therapeutic listening to you read other men's stories. I was raised by a father that most will consider an alpha male. I was his only son, and my father and mother are still married today. My dad ran our household. Whatever he said was final. No ifs and buts about it. My mother never questioned my father. She never disrespected my father, and she never complained. I specifically remember one day, my mother's friends were over at the house. I was playing with one of her friend's 2 kids, boy and girl, and we were building and toppling dominoes. That was one of my favorite things to do. I went into the kitchen to grab us each a juice box, and my mother's friend said to my mom, "He's controlling you. Why can't you travel with us? He's very insecure." My mom politely said, "Lilith, I love you, but you will not speak that way about my husband inside of his house. Please grab your children and leave." My mother's friend Lilith said, "If I leave, I'm never coming back, and this friendship, it's over." My mom said, "Very well. It was nice knowing you. Please go." Now, I'm not sure at all how long these two were friends at this time, but my mom was not having any slander towards my father in his home. Lilith took a hike and left with her children. I drank 3 juice boxes and continued playing with my dominoes. My dad never yelled at my mom. He didn't have to. He never yelled at me. I just did as he said. Everyone was happy. My dad was never some mean man at all. He was a protector, a provider, and well respected in our community. Not only was my dad a pipe fitter who installed and repaired mechanical piping systems for the city, he also was the neighborhood mechanic. Every weekend, someone's car was on the list to have a repair done. Depending on how big the job was, he'd recruit one of his buddies. Anything from brakes and rotors to replacing transmissions. My dad did it all, and he never got any complaints from anyone. He's retired now, and he's actually hit the lottery years after retirement. Wow, salute to Dad. Dang, man, wow, okay. Not for hundreds of millions of dollars, though, but I believe after taxes, he walked away with a couple million. He and my mother travel often. They still live in the home they've owned since I was a child. My dad never bought fancy luxury cars, just always kept it simple, and we all were happy. Some family would come off very jealous and say, "We need to live a little." Those words would come from my father's side of the family, claiming that I'm being deprived of a great childhood because I never been to Disney. Growing up, I didn't really care about that stuff. I enjoyed the learning games my dad got me and reading with him or my mom, sleeping out back in a tent overnight and roasting marshmallows. I didn't grow up playing video games like Nintendo and things like that, and some family thought I was suffering for it. I remember as a teenager, though, my cousin had a basketball court in his backyard, a big field for baseball to be played, not like a whole baseball field, but just an area where they would play baseball sometimes, and a tree house, and a bonfire area. And all he wanted to do was sit inside and play Grand Theft Auto 3, I believe it was. They thought I was crazy when I'd give up my turn to play to someone else. I'm talking 70-degree weather. Guys, no one wanted to go outside. I remember leaving and asking my aunt if I could go shoot basketball. I walked out of the room because they were too interested in picking up women off the street and driving behind an alley, doing the nasty in the car on the video game. I went into the kitchen to ask my aunt if I could shoot basketball, and she sent her husband out with me to play, and we played horse. It was so much fun. I was asking Todd, Todd's my aunt's husband and my cousin's stepdad. Why won't the others get off the game and come outside and play? He told me that Lisa, my dad's sister and my aunt, spoils my cousin and allows him to do whatever he wants to do. Todd said if he had it his way, my cousin wouldn't even have a game to play. Todd said he felt as if he wasted so much money on building these areas for my cousin because he rarely uses them. I was a bit confused because what crossed my mind when he said that was, "Aren't you the man of the house?" But I didn't say that. I knew it would be rude. My dad taught me to always respect my elders. True story, you probably are wondering why I'd begin with all of that, how I grew up and my father, etc. Well, because I sit and think and wonder how I allowed a woman to control me. And I not take the lessons from my father that my father taught me into my adulthood. As soon as I left the house, it's like all of that went out the window, and I did everything I know he would not approve of. So throughout high school, my father pushed me to go to trade school. My junior year is the first time I challenged him on anything. It was always I knew he had my best interest in mind and he wouldn't steer me in the wrong direction. So anything he'd ever tell me, I'd obey and do, and it always worked out for me. But since I was in elementary school, I always wanted to design bridges. My father thought it would be great if I learned welding or some sort of trade where I could build them. But I wanted to design these things in junior year. I spoke with the high school counselor, and he basically told me I'd be silly not to follow my own dreams. I knew I would not have been happy actually building or welding things, even though I've done those things during my studies in college. I wanted to make big decisions and work through calculations and formulas. I came home and I was asking my dad one day during my junior year in high school if I could speak to him about something. He said, "Son, absolutely. Let's go out back. It's a beautiful afternoon." We went out. He grabbed himself a brewski, is what he used to call them, beers, and had my mom bring me out some iced tea. After I got my drink, Dad was asking, "So what's up, son? What's on your mind?" I told him straight up that I'm interested in going to a university after graduation, and I want to be a civil engineer one day. I told Dad that I know that he wants me to go to trade school and avoid student loans, but I genuinely believe it will be worth it if I go to a university. I sat there expecting my dad to shut it down, and his response was, "Son, I'm so proud of you, man. It's your life, and if you believe this is the right way, then I'm not going to stop you and stand in your way. Honestly, I can't stop you. I want you to go the trade school route because there's no loans involved, and you can actually get a scholarship if you go to the tech school down the road." I told my dad it's not too late for me to get scholarships, and my counselor told me that I could possibly get an academic scholarship because of my grades. My dad told me that would be great, and Dad told me that he was proud of me and knows I'm going to do great things in life. We stayed out and chopped it up. Then Mom joined us. Dad ended up cooking on the grill, and it was just a wonderful day. I went on to graduate from high school and was also accepted into Georgia Institute of Technology. I received multiple scholarships that helped me tremendously. Before going to college, my dad had to talk with me. He first was asking if I was a virgin. I told him I was. He then told me not to get distracted with girls, and if I think that I'm ready to be active with a woman, specifically a woman that I know and I'm in a relationship with, then to tell him and have to talk about being safe. I looked him in his eyes and I told him I would. That didn't happen at all, guys. So freshman year, I met a girl who was a sophomore, and she really liked me. We became good friends, and one day she told me she wanted to be my first. She wasn't a virgin. Now, true story, I said I'm going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Her and I started hooking up often, and no protection was used, ever. She ended up getting pregnant, and I thought my world was over. She told me over the phone and said she wanted to keep it, and she was going to drop out of school. She started acting very weird to me after telling me she was pregnant. She became very distant and acting as if she was disgusted with me. I'd go to see her. She'd be throwing up and sick, very bad morning sicknesses. She always had an attitude. Around this time, I was trying to figure out how to tell my father. I was terrified. So one day in school, someone I knew was asking me if I was well off, rich. I said, "What? No, why would you ask that?" She said, "Well, Melissa is telling everyone she's keeping your baby because your family is wealthy and she's not missing the opportunity." I said, "Wait, I'm not rich and I don't come from wealth. That's silly that she'd think that." Someone else had joined in on the conversation by this time and said, "What? Melissa is such an idiot. She's got you mixed up with the other Fitzgerald. Wow, is that why she started dating you? Because she thought you were the one that was rich?" I was so embarrassed. In class, there was another person with the last name Fitzgerald, and his family was filthy rich. That explains why he drove a luxury car in college. Melissa just went completely radio silent. And I later started seeing her in school, and she completely ignored me and avoided me. A few people told me that she terminated the pregnancy. I guess she didn't want it anymore after learning I wasn't rich. What an awesome introduction in learning how women outside of my mother truly are. I really started to focus on my studies. I did go to the doctor to make sure I was okay, and I promised myself I was going to wait until I was in a serious relationship before I jumped into bed with another woman again. And I never told my dad that I lost my virginity. I went all the way to the end of graduate school before I started dating anyone. This woman, Chelsea, ended up being my wife and was the last woman I've dealt with seriously. I've decided to live the rest of my life as a single man and mainly focus on my career. The last year in graduate school, I met Chelsea. I knew of her, but we didn't talk much. I took an elective and she was in my class. Once we started talking more and getting to know each other, it was clear that we liked each other. Chelsea presented herself as this woman that comes from a very religious family. She was a virgin and saving herself for the man she knew she would marry, and it was clear that they were going towards marriage. I absolutely loved that. She was studying for her master's as well, but for sociology. We both graduated and started very strong within our careers. She was a research analyst for a government agency, and I was becoming a civil engineer, working hard to become licensed, which I eventually did become. I introduced Chelsea to my parents during the graduation, and I met her parents during that time. My parents loved her, and her parents seemed to love me as well. We all went out to dinner that day, so Chelsea's parents wanted to take her to dinner after graduation, and that's exactly what my parents wanted to do. They both decided, why don't we all just go together? And it was great. It was wonderful. It was a Japanese steakhouse, and it was so funny at the end of it. At the end of dinner, both my dad and Chelsea's father argued over who was going to take the check. Not a bad argument. None of them would let up. Even the table next to us thought it was funny. They ended up splitting the check. Chelsea's father paid for his family and my father paid for his family. It was so funny though. Her father and my father were pretty much the same type of guys. Chelsea and I went on and continued dating. We both lived in the same area and our jobs are pretty close, and eventually I proposed to her. The night I proposed to her is the night we became intimate. We always kissed and would make out, but it would stop there. But the night I proposed to her, she felt as if, we're going towards marriage. I love this man. He loves me, and she gave herself to me. It was wonderful, and she wasn't lying. She truly was a virgin. It was beautiful. We eventually moved in together during the engagement, and we had our wedding. It was wonderful. Really big wedding as well. Chelsea has a huge family. It was very special. She cried, I cried. We enjoyed each other's family and had fun. And it was wonderful, beautiful. Everyone was happy for us. I thought I had did everything in life correctly. I went to school. I worked really hard to not get into debt. I had a little bit of debt, but paying off my student loans was nothing. I had met a woman who had pretty much did the same thing and was willing to pay off her student loans before we did anything significant like purchasing a home, taking multiple trips just for fun, having children. We were smart about everything. We didn't go and buy brand new cars or anything like that. She was not the type of person to want to just spend uncontrollably. We did not eat out often. We both cooked. It was great. I didn't expect her to be exactly like my mother. So my mother took care of the whole house. My dad never cooked, unless he was grilling outside. He never cleaned up. My mother did all that. But my mother didn't work. She stayed home. And she took care of me. And she took care of the home. She ran errands. She handled everything that needed to be handled while my dad simply focused on working and being the best at what he was doing. And it made their lives easier. Things are different. Things are just different today. Women are going to school and it's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against that. Till this day, I know people in this space or all over the internet claim that women probably shouldn't work. That I don't agree with at all. I don't think everyone is meant to be a stay-at-home wife. And if you have the opportunity to go out and be something great and make good money doing it, why wouldn't you? But we both would clean the home and we'd both cook and things like that. And we both had our own careers. There never was any complaints until my wife hit me with a question that I was not expecting. So one day on a Sunday after church, I come in from cutting the grass. We were renting a house. I come in from cutting the grass and my wife is sitting in the bedroom watching something. I go in and she quickly just turns it off. I said, "What are you watching? What is wrong with you? Turn it back on." Now I said it in a joking way, but I was serious too. She says, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were outside cutting grass. How did you do that so fast?" I said, "Woman, what are you in here watching? Corn?" She says, "No, I'm watching something that you may judge me about though. But I find it interesting." I said, "Okay, well, you are my wife and we should be open with each other. What are you watching?" She cuts the TV back on and goes back to what she was watching. And it was a show called Open Marriage on Netflix. I said, "Oh, well, I mean, it's just a TV show. Why did you get afraid when I walked in? Did you think I was going to think that you wanted an open marriage or something?" I look at my wife and she has the most serious look on her face. She says, "Yes, I'm kind of curious about it. That's how I found this on Netflix. I read about it and I've always known about it. Actually, my aunt and uncle have this very same type of relationship. You've met them. They're still married and they're happy." I said, "So what are you trying to ask me? For an open marriage?" "I don't know. It just crossed my mind, okay? It's just that when we met, you were more experienced than I was. I've never been with anyone else, and I love what we have. I'm not saying anything is wrong, but I'm just curious about other things and other people, you know?" I said, "No, I don't know. I've never felt that way. And as far as me having more experience, I was with one other person before you. So Chelsea and I never really spoke about how many people I've been with before her or anything like that. She just knew that I wasn't a virgin. So maybe she assumed that I was just sleeping around in college. I don't know. But I told her, yeah, I had only been with one person, freshman year, and I hadn't done anything until we got engaged and made love that night." She says, "Oh, I really did assume that you probably had multiple women, but even though you still technically had more experience than me because you said you had a girlfriend, so I'm sure you did it often, right?" I said, "Yes, we did, but that was the only person I've done it with. Listen, let's not talk about this. We're talking about us. We're married right now. We're supposed to be in love. It's supposed to only be us. I don't want to add anyone else into our relationship. I have no interest in being with another woman, and it bothers me that you want to be with another man." She says, "Well, you're acting as if I'm thinking strictly bedroom action. I'm not. I told Chelsea, even if we don't go in with that intention, it's going to eventually lead to bedroom action. I told Chelsea, you know this. She said, well, not necessarily. It doesn't always work out that way. I just want us to see what's out there and what it's like. Just to be around someone else, you know? I again said, I do not know. I have no idea what you're getting at. Chelsea says, listen, hun, let's try it, but there's not to be any bedroom action involved. Agreed? We just simply hang out with other people, just friends of the opposite sex. Not even a kiss. I said, you have to be kidding me right now. She says, hun, it's not cheating. We're just finding friends. That's it. True story. I promise you that I will tell you the truth and nothing but the truth. I stupidly agreed to this situation. I initially didn't find another woman to hang out with and become friends with. But my wife did find her person fairly quickly. By the way, she wouldn't tell me much about this person, just that he was very smart and they shared the same interests as far as career. Coincidentally, he was a research analyst as well. Stupidly, I didn't ask exactly where he worked until later, but I found out it was her coworker. So constantly I'm listening to my wife tell me about this friend of hers, and I got fed up, and I told her, we're not doing this. I'm not. I didn't sign up for some stupid open marriage. Chelsea says, don't worry, don't get worried. Find someone and it'll be great. I read that this is very important and healthy for couples. It's nothing wrong with it. And I spoke with my aunt and uncle, and I would like for you to sit down with them. They want to tell you that it's okay and it'll all work out. True story, I sat down with my ex-wife's uncle and aunt. They proceeded to tell me how wonderful their marriage is and they love each other more and more, and every once in a while they step out with someone else. But with them, bedroom action is involved, and that's when I told my wife, she was there with us sitting there and talking. I told my wife that it's going to eventually become sexual. I don't want that in my marriage. This is where my wife admitted that it almost became that way with her and her new friend that I still didn't know at the time worked with her. I asked her, what do you mean almost? She says, well, one day after work, I got off early at noon. I said, what day was this? I didn't know about you getting off early. She says, yeah, I didn't tell you. I didn't think I needed to anyway. Let me tell you the story. So I got off early and I met up with this friend, and we had one too many drinks in the middle of the day. And we began kissing and went back to his car and ended up in his back seat. That's when I stopped him and I told him I didn't want this. I like our friendship and I want to keep it there. And we've just continued just being friends. True story, I was heated. And the only thing in my head was, I want payback. I didn't like this feeling afterwards. But at the time, I just wanted to get back at her. I didn't want to go out and see what was out there. I just wanted to go out there and see what was out there, and I couldn't wait to sleep with someone else. I actually was going to do it. I was going to give my wife Chelsea exactly what she wanted. So during that sit down with her aunt and uncle, I told Chelsea, okay, I'm okay with it. I'll find someone. And Chelsea smiled. True story, I ended up searching on dating apps initially, and I will say, even as a single man today, I will never entertain a dating app. The people on those apps are pretty much like the scum of the earth, and I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of women I was meeting just had issues, mental issues. There was one woman, her profile pictures were gorgeous. This woman was phenomenal, and we were talking back and forth, and eventually we set up a date. I met this woman. It was her, but she clearly was doing drugs. It was disgusting. I was nice about it and continued to date. But I just knew I would never see her again. In the middle of talking, she told me she had just left rehab and she's changing her life. And she has 5 dogs rescue that stay with her. I was just disgusted. I couldn't even finish my food. Just thinking about how her house might have smelled gross. I jumped off dating apps. I ended up hanging out with the girl at the gas station. So I went to this gas station quite often for years, and I became very friendly with the workers. And I would chat with one girl specifically over the years, and she seemed really cool. And she was very cool, very beautiful woman, by the way. She actually had become manager at the store, and I was congratulating her. And I'm there a little earlier than usual getting gas and getting coffee, and we're talking. The store is kind of empty, and she's asking me how life is. She was asking me about my wife, and true story, it just came out of me. I told this woman everything that I was going through, how my wife all of a sudden wanted an open marriage, and I'm so confused about it. I can't believe I agreed to it, and she actually is acting on this, and I hadn't found anyone because I didn't want to. But after discovering that she almost slept with someone, I just have this urge to want to get back at her and find someone to sleep with. I was completely honest with this woman. She walked over and she kissed me. This woman told me that I can have her. I was asking her what time she was off work that day, and she told me she actually was off work at 2 p.m. and she doesn't live too far from the gas station, and if I want to stop by after work, I could. I said to her, well, how about I just leave work early and come straight to you at 2 o'clock? And she told me that would be perfect. We exchanged numbers and I went to work. I was pretty excited knowing that I was able to get back at my wife, and I had it all in my head that I was going to tell her everything that happened. Yeah, I have a friend, we slept together, just put it all in her face, and she'd be all upset about it. And it worked. She did get upset about it, but it didn't make me feel any better. So at 2 p.m., my company knew that I was leaving early that day, and I headed straight over to Rachel's apartment. When I stepped in, Rachel was gorgeous. She had on lingerie. She was ready. I was asking her if I could take a shower, and she said absolutely. I went and took a shower, cleaned up, and I came out. She was right there in the restroom. I heard her come in, and we started right there. I didn't even leave her house until about 7 p.m. I left my phone in my car on purpose because I didn't want to deal with getting calls back to back from my wife asking where I was, or it ruining the mood. I got in my car and I had several missed calls along with text messages from Chelsea. I called back and she's saying, "Where are you? I was worried sick. Are you okay? I called your job and everything. They all said you left work early. Where have you been?" And I told her right there I was with a friend. She said, "What friend?" I told her the name, Rachel, and this is someone I've known for a little while. But we never hung out. But tonight we decided to hang out. You told me you wanted an open marriage and it's okay for me to hang out with someone else, so I have. I apologize for not letting Chelsea know that I was not going to be home. I should have told her that at least. Chelsea says, "I need to know more about this Rachel. So she just pops up out of nowhere, huh?" I tell her, "Well, it's Rachel from the gas station down the street. You've met her a couple times. She's now the manager. I've known her for a while and we talked this morning and I told her everything you and I were going through as far as an open marriage. And well, we just decided to hang out and she was okay with it because she knew I was in an open marriage." Chelsea says, "Rachel? That Rachel? Are you kidding me? You're going to leave me for her. Look at her. She's gorgeous." I see the way you look at her when we go to that store. How you laugh at her little jokes that aren't even funny, and she just laughs at your jokes. I don't believe you. You've been cheating on me with her. I said, "Whoa, cheating? I've never cheated on you ever in my life. And I hope you're not trying to say this is cheating because you told me to do this." Chelsea tells me that she's pretty sure I've already been sleeping with her, but since she can't prove it, she'll stop saying it. She doesn't like that I'm dealing with her because I already knew her and I need to find someone new. I was asking her, when did this rule come about? Chelsea says, "Just now." I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to stop seeing Rachel. You're seeing who you're seeing and I'm not complaining." Chelsea gets silent. I asked her, "So where exactly did you find this new friend of yours? You never told me, by the way." She says, "I told you we do the same type of work." I said, "Okay, where does he work? Where does he live even? You didn't tell me anything." She goes quiet. I said, "Where do you know him from? Where did you meet him?" She sighs a little bit and then says, "He's my coworker, okay?" I said, "Oh, so it's okay for you to work with someone that you've had a crush on for some time? Decide that you might want to sleep with him? So you ask your husband if it's okay for you to be friends with him in an open marriage?" But me laughing with a woman that I've known for a little while at the gas station because I would frequent there, I can't have a friendship with her because I've known her? Is this making any sense to you? Chelsea says, "You need to stop seeing Rachel or else." I said, "Or else what?" Chelsea tells me, "Please just come home, please. I already made dinner and it's getting cold." And she hung up the phone on me. On my way home, I decided that the best thing to do is file for divorce. We're already done. This is ridiculous. I get home and immediately arguing starts. This is the first time Chelsea and I had ever really had a big argument. She's telling me that I'm wrong for hanging out with Rachel, and she's asking me if I was intimate with her, and I told the truth. Yes, I was. I slept with her. Chelsea initially started crying and then says, "You know what? Well, I've been sleeping with my friend as well. In fact, I was sleeping with him when I initially was asking you for the open marriage." And she's telling me this with this attitude of, "Aha, I cheated first," type of attitude. That only confirmed that I should divorce her. The next day, I went and found me a divorce lawyer. The same day I was looking, the same day I found one. I told him everything. I told him the truth, and he told me he could help me, and that's what he did. Chelsea was served, and when she got served the divorce papers, she couldn't believe it and thought that I was overreacting and we could fix this marriage. Chelsea was asking if we could go to counseling and get rid of this open marriage situation, but I told her it was too late. You lied to me, and the fact that I slept with someone else, I'm over you. I didn't care about your feelings anymore. It did hurt me seeing that she was hurt that I slept with Rachel initially, because in my head I thought that she made me stoop down to her level. That's not me. I had this whole "I have to get her back" attitude. I have to serve her with karma. It's my job to do so, and it's going to make me feel good, but it made me feel horrible. Rachel was by my side the entire divorce process, and to be honest, we continued to sleep together. Chelsea and I did not own a home together. The divorce was not that hard. I didn't owe her anything. She didn't owe me anything. We just went our separate ways, but she did try to get back with me several times. I've gotten letters, I've gotten emails, voicemails left on my phone, everything. But I continued with the divorce. Even after the divorce, she tried to get with me, but I was done. I did date Rachel for some time, but I never wanted to get married again. So eventually that ended because Rachel wanted to be married. She had never been married before. Rachel was a beautiful woman, I'm not going to lie, but I just couldn't bring myself to ever marry again. Maybe if it was non-traditional, which I presented to her, but that wasn't good enough for her. Oh well, I moved on, and I plan to be single man, and I plan to be a single man the rest of my life, and I'm totally okay with it. I'm totally okay with not having children. It doesn't bother me one bit. I love my career. I do a lot of great work, and I'm going to continue to do so. Wow. What an email, man. I love it when you guys are completely honest. You know, reading your subject, you say, "Look, I'm going to tell the truth, the good, bad, ugly. I'm going to tell everything. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and act like, oh, I was just pure alpha male. As soon as my wife presented me with this open marriage, I started banging her friends and her mother and all types of craziness I done seen." Like, I'm going to tell the truth. I allowed my wife to convince me to do something so stupid that I knew I didn't want to do. And on top of this, guys, I had a father who didn't play that in his house. He ran his household. I saw that growing up, and I still did wrong. I love that. You know, some people could jump in the comments and say, "What an idiot. So your dad shows you all these lessons and you do the complete opposite?" People do that, guys. You know, people do that, and he's showing, hey, this is what I did, and this is how it turned out for me, and it turned out very bad. Maybe if he would have listened to his father and thought, what would my father do in this situation? What would my father do in this situation? He wouldn't have gone through any of that. But he showed us he didn't do that. And look, he got a woman pregnant in college, could have ruined his life. I'm glad you said, you know what? I'm going to just focus on my studies. I'm not even going to sleep with anybody else. I respect that a lot, man. I appreciate this email, man. Thanks for sending it in. Guys, if you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That's truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.